This year, win up to 1,000 times your cash every game day only on Underdog. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite players' stats like touchdowns, goals, points, and so much more. Millions of fans from all over the U.S. have won over $1 billion on Underdog. Underdog is offered in 33 states across the U.S. And this season, Underdog will be running a special, promo, or bonus almost every single day. Don't miss out. Download the app and sign up for Underdog today using promo code ENDZONE. And you'll get a free pick as part of your first cash entry plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Again, that's promo code ENDZONE. Cash in on every touchdown this season with Underdog. Must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. 19 years or older in Alabama and Nebraska. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
So, same time on Tuesday, November 5th?
I can't make it. That's Election Day, and I'm taking my mom to vote.
You make plans to vote with your mom?
Oh, yeah. We make a whole day of it. Lunch, hang, vote. It's our little tradition.
That sounds like fun. Can I tag along?
Of course. But check out votehq.org first. That way you'll have all the info you need to vote.
Oh, girl, say that one more time. I'll write it down.
Visit votehq.org for voting information.
Paid for by American Independent Radio.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by Lucky Bastard Distillers, Saskatchewan's premier distillery, and by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, brewed in the heart of Regina. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's the CFL's refs are pretty good podcast. I'm Joel Gasson with John Fraser, and yes, we have been called in the past the official podcast of the officials.
Yes.
Because John knows a few officials in football in Canada, and we have come to their defense on a few occasions and have talked about some things that some people maybe have gotten confused in the past. So we always like to support the people in stripes in the CFL because, quite frankly, we think they do a pretty good darn job overall.
Yes, absolutely they do.
We've seen this time and time again, and it always seems to be forgotten, especially in like the early weeks of the CFL regular season, because it's like, okay, all we really have to go off right now is what's going on in the CFL. You could argue the UFL's kind of still going on, but whatever.
But nobody's paying attention to that on either side.
No, and no one really cares about the officiating in that league. No. So it's not really until college and the NFL kicks off that you really start to remember, oh yeah, these guys that do this job in the CFL are actually pretty good.
Actually very good.
Very
Especially
good.
Too, like college officials at the highest level are full-time. Am I correct in that?
I honestly don't know.
Okay. But
And like most of them, like at the not SEC Big Ten sort of level, are still like developing refs, so you kind of give them a pass at times.
100%. And college football by its own nature is chaotic, so yeah. I don't think you ever see games that people really put the pin on the officials, right? I mean, it's college football. So, because you're right, yeah. they're developing everything like that. But in terms of apples to apples, as you said, when the NFL comes into its own as we get into September, and we get to compare, part-time professional refs in the CFL compared to the absolute ass clowns that were working the LA Rams and my Minnesota Vikings game tonight. I'm not mad. I'm good. I'm just going to take a sip.
I asked you before if you were okay, and you said you were fine.
I was okay, and then I got talking about it, and now the thing that's also making it worse is, as we'll get to it, what's in the glass. I'm having a non-Lucky Bastard vodka, and it's not very good tonight. So I'm just kind of cranky now, Joel.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But yes, our CFL officials do a way better job than the guys in the NFL. And the guys in the NFL are full-time. That's absurd.
Yeah, so CFL refs, very good. If you missed it, because we are recording this like literally, within the hour of this happening on Thursday night.
Hence, yes, this is not leftover rage like 2 days later. This is like, it is fresh. I've seen it all over social media. Sam Darnold almost getting his face ripped off.
Yeah, it was what ended up being the final drive of the game for the Minnesota Vikings. They were down 8. Sam Darnold in his own end zone basically gets his head ripped off. And there was apparently no face mask call on that, which if you can find the video online, go for it. It is, or if you're watching the game, obviously Just one of the more absurd non-calls I've ever seen in anywhere in football. Which is funny after like the weekend that was in college football when Texas fans raided the field with garbage because of a weird pass interference call that ended up getting overturned. The refs claim it had nothing to do with the garbage on the field, but
it has.
I mean,
I've refereed. It has stuff to do with the garbage on the field, right? Like it's just and I laugh and. I think the same. I know we had issues with the command center.
Yeah, the command center is a whole other issue that the CFL has had to deal with. But we've always maintained that the guys and gals on the field are very good at what they do.
100%. And what I laugh at is friend of the program and friend of ours, Jamie Nye, pointed out that especially in the NFL, they will call down and be like, "Nah, got to move that football an eighth of an inch towards the 40-yard line." But literally watch somebody, like, the foul is so egregious. The defensive player that face mask Darnold puts his hands to his face like, oh shit, I clearly committed a penalty and have just cost my team and give the Minnesota Vikings second life. It was that egregious. And no flag. That's cool. That's neat. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I have this bad vodka.
Yeah, important to note, it would have been a very long and difficult touchdown drive and 2-point conversion for the Minnesota Vikings just to force overtime. So I will still maintain that officiating does not cost football games.
No, I will agree with you. It doesn't cost football games, but it shouldn't be a topic of discussion after football games. And the thing I find, especially with our CFL officials, is outside of the weird one where basically the league realized that the command center had overstepped between Saskatchewan and Ottawa in the tie earlier this year, we've seen some hits that have sparked controversy.
Yeah, I mean, which is always going to happen.
Exactly. It's a physical game. But I can't think of, outside of the Ottawa game this year, any CFL game that ended with the discourse of that was on the officials.
Maybe that wasn't necessarily on the officials, but that non-fumble in Hamilton that Montreal didn't get was weird.
But
I think Montreal ended up winning that game pretty easily anyway, but it was still, that was one of those calls that everyone was like, what the heck?
Right. But I mean, none that we have said, happened in the last minute. That was the biggest storyline coming out of the game. But also that, and maybe part of that is, and I know you and I are going to discuss this here tonight, the fact that CFL football has been largely irrelevant for outside of a handful of games for basically the past 5 weeks. It's easy to make a mistake in a game that doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying the officials are making mistakes in those games, but they tend to go unnoticed when, again, there's been a lot of meaningless football lately.
Yeah. I mean, well, this weekend, great example of that. I mean, we had Toronto and Ottawa play for just a playoff positioning spot, and we had 2 games that didn't matter, and that definitely reflected in the ratings.
Oh, goodness, yes.
And, I mean, the games are also awful on top of being meaningless. So,
which they're going to be, because you're not seeing the best game plan from either team, right? And I forget about this sometimes, and I think we all do, that the players play and they execute. But along my work life today, I ran into the Hilltops defensive coordinator Jeff Yowzy, and of course the Regina Thunder beat the Saskatoon Hilltops to move on to the national semifinals this past weekend. And we got talking. I've known JY for many years, and I said, okay, what happened? And he flat out said their game plan was better than ours.
Mm-hmm.
We have better players, we have better athletes. This is not what he said, but I think the Hilltops, watching them, have better players and athletes. But the Regina Thunder coaching staff had a plan, and they executed it, and it worked. Now, that's what to me makes a boring football game, is you go vanilla. Why put anything on film when, and why bring out those good game plans when it's not going to mean anything?
Well, I mean, for the teams in the playoffs, sure, there is teams playing that aren't in the playoffs and still decide to be boring for some reason.
Right. Like, why would, like, if I was a coach not in the playoffs, I'd be going for it on every third down no matter what. There'd be onside kicks galore. There'd be hook and ladder plays and the first page of my playbook. Like, why not? Bring the chaos, bring the fun, at least make it entertaining rather than just being Calgary.
Yeah, and we will get into that, and a few more is obviously this week coming up. Big game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Well, it could be at least.
Yes.
They play the Calgary Stampeders on a Saturday evening/afternoon at Mosaic Stadium. Should the Bombers lose to the Montreal Alouettes earlier in the day, the Riders will have a shot at first place in the West and the bye should they beat the Calgary Stampeders. So we will get into that. Some things the CFL could be doing to ramp that up a little more. And of course, the league out with the most outstanding player award nominees in their incredibly awesome and not flawed at all system. So we will talk about that as well. But as usual, John, for the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, before we get into all that, what is in the glass this week?
Well, I don't want to disparage local companies that aren't Minhas.
Well, they're not local, so...
Exactly,
yeah.
Right? But I recently came into, from a work dinner, a bottle of local vodka from a distillery that's not Lucky Bastard.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not here to shame. I'm just here to say that apples to apples, a simple vodka on ice with a squeeze of lemon.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky Bastard is both cheaper and much better tasting than this local vodka I'm consuming. To the point that I had to go into my fridge and actually go into my wife's stash, Saskatoon Berry iced teas. So I'm sure Lacey will be thrilled that I have had to shift to one of her drinks as of immediately. It's like, in case of emergency, go in the beer fridge and get a Saskatoon Berry iced tea, because those will never let you down.
No, they won't. For me, I went and picked up this week because I've been meaning to try it. And then it hit the news that the news came out that the Pile of Bones Brewing Company and Nokomis, working together, brewed what was the best beer in Canada this year.
Oh, yes. You said that to me.
Yes, the Canada Beer Cup happened over the weekend, ? Since we last recorded, it happened. Don't exactly quote me on the exact date it happened. Because my whole life blends together as one big blob right now.
Paternity leave for the win.
Anyway, yeah, so... And it won, Pile of Bones, Nokomis, I believe I saw Churchill, a few others. Like, they won through some various categories. And the way this works is, like, they go through all the categories of all the different beer styles and what's, within. They reward gold, silver, bronze to all of those different categories. In the end, there's the best in show that goes
like a
to,
dog show,
essentially, to what they believe was the absolute best beer of everything they tried. Cool story. Last year's beer best in show went to a beer from Deadfall Brewing. They're out of Prince Rupert, BC. Okay. And the cool part of that story is their head brewer and owner, or co-owner with his wife, used to actually be one of the brewers at Nokomis.
Oh, wow.
So he left to go out there, well-known guy in the Regina and Saskatchewan beer circles. So they won last year. So it's pretty cool then that they got to hand off the cup to the guys at the Pile of Bones Brewing Company for their Quark Strangeness and Charm. It's a wit beer.
Yes.
Apparently the name is an inside joke that only Nathan, the head brewer, really understands. So I don't know. I haven't asked him about it yet. The can art is beautiful. It's like a First Nations design thing. There's an actual piece of art that this is inspired by, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's your standard wit beer, but it's got some coriander orange peel as well. Pretty easy drinking, and yeah, I would say it lives up to the hype.
Wow.
I mean, I can't say whether I would agree or not whether it's the best beer in Canada, because I haven't tried all the ones that were in the competition, but
right.
It was good. But it's definitely very good, no question about it.
But for a couple of guys that thoroughly enjoy a lot of beers, then I think we, not to sound arrogant, but we have a little more say than somebody that's only had Molson Canadian or Kokanee their whole life.
Yeah,
so.
And I'm pretty particular about what beers. Like, there's a lot of them I'm like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah,
but this is pretty close to like if you get like a fresh like Eardinger or a Hoegaarden or something along those lines. Like it's got that little bit of a extra little twang to it that you don't necessarily get from like your big brand Belgian whatevers.
Yeah. No, because I do love on a nice summer day on a patio Hoegaarden. Like,
yeah, especially when you get like the gigantic like 4-foot long glass.
Yeah, exactly. That's just completely unnecessary. But are they just at the brewery, or do you know if I could like find one tomorrow, for example?
You should still be able to find it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I will have to go on a search for that tomorrow, because that sounds right up my alley. And we're having 10 9-year-olds over for Max's birthday party tomorrow. So I am going.
So you'll be picking up some gin as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up all the things, because I don't know. I will make it through this bottle of vodka just because.
Yeah,
I'm not
you're not a quitter. Mama didn't raise a quitter.
Mama didn't raise a quitter. But I wonder, okay, do you think they could stash some gold medal winning beer for our event winning performance at the Saskatoon Men's Bonspiel we're sure to put up?
This was brewed a few months ago, so probably not.
Ah, damn it.
So unless they're planning to make another batch, which I don't know, probably not, no.
Well, okay. Well, then we don't have to keep it for, the dressing room celebration when we lose on Sunday because we're all too tired and hungover because we're all over 40 or over or approaching 40.
Yeah. I mean, that's generally what we do, and we've been doing that for a number of years at the Saskatoon Men's Bonspiel. So
Yes, that's right. Which, by the way, both Pile of Bones, Lucky Bastard, confirmed as sponsors for Team Fraser. You will enjoy the nickname I picked for your jersey.
Okay. I mean, I would say leave it as a surprise, but I will be the ones bringing the jerseys up because they're being made in Regina. So
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Well then.
But we'll just leave it for now until I
Okay.
actually pick up the shirts, and then
That's right.
I guess I could just not look at them until I get up to Saskatoon.
I will text Bryce, who is making them, to make sure, maybe he'll put yours in, the discreet porno bag.
I mean, I assume they're all going to be in the same bag, so they could just, as long as it's, in the middle somewhere.
No. We need to get, the old school, dark plastic bag you saw at, you either see at toy shops or back in the day when you could rent the spicy ones from Blockbuster. You never did that? Never?
No, I never did that. Can't say I did.
Rogers Video in Thunder Bay.
No, I don't know if my local video shops had those options.
Oh yeah, no, there was a back room at the Rogers Video on Arthur Street in Thunder Bay.
Okay.
So I think it was mostly for shits and giggles, but we still did it.
The only time I can remember something like that was once when we were going up to a friend of mine, his cottage.
Yeah.
About an hour and a half outside of Ottawa. And it was one of our buddies' birthdays when we were going up around that time. And so me and the guy I was driving up, it was his idea that we stop in at one of the small towns along the way, stop in at their video store and buy him a video. So we did, and we got him the video, and it was funny, and it was hilarious. But the actual best part of the story was months later, because I took my dad's car up to do that, because it had a little more space to carry the stuff we were bringing up,
like porn.
Well, that wasn't part of the plan, but anyway, months later, my dad's going through the car, and he opens the glove box, or I don't remember where my friend apparently the receipt fell out somewhere. So he found the receipt for the video, and he was like, "What is?" He's like, he asked me about it. I was like, "Oh, we bought that for my buddy at went on the cottage trip," and he just kind of laughed. Yeah,
it's a good thing that your mom didn't find it.
She never drove that car. It would have been fine.
See, that's fair, but I feel like
I don't think she would have cared either. She would have asked him and literally, we bought it for Greg. So not Piffle's podcast, Greg, a different Greg.
Can we pretend it's Piffle's podcast, Greg? Let's roll with that. We're buying. That's it. We've got the After Dark feel for sure that we have now suggested.
Can you tell we're coming off a bye week? Yeah.
Yeah, we are coming off a bye week. We may or may not have bought porn for Greg now, so.
Hashtag porn for Greg.
Okay. I don't think Dunk would ever let it fly, obviously, from the 3 Down account, but I feel like we both need to retweet with hashtag porn for Greg and not tell Greg McCullough why.
No, because I know he listens every so often, so it'd be funny if he just happens to catch this one.
Okay. Okay, done. Hashtag porn for Greg.
What I guess is currently porn for Greg would be the play of Roland Milligan Jr. I can't believe I pulled that one out.
That is okay. I know I did a 2-year-long gag where I tried to make it hard for you, giggity.
Yeah.
But this was not one I was trying to do that. It's just it's just an After Dark episode, so off a bye week. But you know what? I think he would be, because I know the Piffles guys have been running a little charitable endeavor. It is election season basically everywhere. I know they've been putting up Milligan for MOP signs for charity here for a bit. So yeah, I think Milligan winning might be the kind of package Greg would take home from a video store in a little black bag.
Potentially, yeah. So of course, if you missed it, when we're breaking news to you for some reason, number one, you should check things out more often. Number two, yes, the CFL put out the nominees for the Most Outstanding Player Awards. Team nominees were released this week. We'll find out division nominees, I believe, next week, and then from there it goes, obviously, to the final show, Grey Cup week in Vancouver. Pretty much no surprise.
No.
Across the board for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Roland Milligan Jr., of course, takes home Most Outstanding Player, Most Outstanding Defensive Player. We'll talk about something that happened in those regards in a second. And Most Outstanding Special Teams Player. None of those surprising. Obviously, I think the argument for him being the MOP of the league was that he did so well at both phases of the game, both defense and special teams. So it would have been a little weird to give someone else special teams if there wasn't the idea that this guy could legitimately be the MOP.
I agree.
Not that anyone else really necessarily stood out as like most outstanding special teams player, though, as we talked last week, the way Brett Lowther has rebounded from that game in Montreal.
And minus his other game against Montreal.
Yeah, I think is worthy of some kind of mention, honorable mention kind of thing, because the guy has actually made the most kicks in the league now this year, and, that whole thing that we talked about last week. So he is, he gets honorable mention. He would get like second place, but obviously it's Roland Milligan Jr. And to anyone with a brain, if you nominate a guy for most outstanding player and he is not a quarterback or receiver or anyone else on offense, obviously then he also is the most outstanding defensive player. Should he play defense?
Unanimously, thankfully.
Yes, unanimously as well. In Montreal, as a side note, for some reason, Tyrese Beverett, unsurprisingly, named their most outstanding player nominee, not Cody Fajardo. And
because again, Cody's played like a game and a half.
Mm-hmm. And he was the unanimous selection, obviously, and as he should be. He was also named their most outstanding defensive player, which he should be. But that wasn't a unanimous decision.
Which is just...
So,
why?
I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, this is one of those scenarios where it's like, these ballots should probably be public so we can figure out what is going on here and why someone did this. Like, I don't know if it's a out of spite thing or just I'm going to vote for someone else just for fun because I know he's going to get it anyway. And I wanted to give whoever else the other option was some recognition. I don't know.
Okay. That second point I could live with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, to pull back the curtain, because you and I have both been part of this process.
Yep.
The teams leave it to the local media to determine who are going to be these nominees. So even as local media dwindles, you still have, enough outlets that are voting on these things, right? Because I remember being part of these discussions and, typically it's like one vote per outlet, right? So I would have, and let's face it, we all talk.
Yeah,
even if your competition, like literally the genesis of our friendship was me covering the Riders for WW and you covering them for CKOM. Like we all talk all the time. So I would have liked to see the voting be released, just saying, hey, I wanted to salute this guy. I spoke to everybody else and I knew he had the votes to be the defensive player. So I wanted to recognize this guy for blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Got a nice little like human interest, not a puff piece, but a nice piece to salute somebody. Right. So
yep.
Instead, we're all sitting here going, what?
Well, it's like that weird year where Mario Alford was the most outstanding special teams player in the league, but apparently wasn't an all-star.
Yeah. Yes.
Like this league has a tradition of this sort of stuff happening, and it's strange. And no one really understands it. The rest of the awards, also unsurprising. Most outstanding Canadian, Samuel Emelis, obviously another 1,000-yard receiving season. Did great all year. Again, you could maybe make an honorable mention for Logan Ferland just for the fact that he played every spot of the line basically and played all year.
And played them well,
yes.
too. Like that to me is the biggest difference between last year's team and this year's team is when the offensive line faced adversity, you had a guy like Ferland that could literally do everything on that line and do it at a high level.
So, I mean, not to say that Sam Emelis's nomination was wrong or this was some kind of snub or anything, but to make a counter argument, that's the one where you could maybe make some kind of thought towards a change.
So, same time on Tuesday, November 5th?
I can't make it. That's election day, and I'm taking my mom to vote.
You make plans to vote with your mom?
Oh, yeah. We make a whole day of it. Lunch, hang, vote. It's our little tradition.
That sounds like fun. Can I tag along?
Of course. But check out votehq.org first. That way you'll have all the info you need to vote.
Ooh, girl, say that one more time. I'll write it down.
Visit votehq.org for voting information.
Paid for by American Independent Radio.
This year, win up to 1,000 times your cash every game day only on Underdog. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite players' stats like touchdowns, goals, points, and so much more. Millions of fans from all over the U.S. have won over $1 billion on Underdog. Underdog is offered in 33 states across the U.S. And this season, Underdog will be running a special, promo, or bonus almost every single day. Don't miss out. Download the app and sign up for Underdog today using promo code ENDZONE. And you'll get a free pick as part of your first cash entry plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Again, that's promo code ENDZONE. Cash in on every touchdown this season with Underdog. Must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. 19 years or older in Alabama and Nebraska. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Well, and I think that's
all.
why it wasn't unanimous.
Yeah.
Right?
I assume so. It was not. No, his was not unanimous. So I assume Logan Ferland probably got a vote somewhere.
You would have to think so, because Ferland, what he did this season and what he continues to do has just been, outstanding in his ability to play all the positions along the line and play them so well. And this all for a guy that, played for the Regina Thunder. Like, again, I've got a soft spot for CJFL guys that come up, and even though I'm a Hilltops guy, I love Logan Ferland and the way that the Thunder worked with the Riders to develop him into the player he is now.
Yep. Unsurprisingly, then following that up, Logan Ferland, of course, the most outstanding offensive lineman nominee, which speaks for itself.
Yes.
Had Peter Godber stayed healthy all year, he may have been the guy, because by all accounts, he was the guy that made that offensive line tick.
Yep.
And unsurprisingly, Trevor Reed, most outstanding rookie, played left tackle all season. Enough said.
You managed to stay healthy and play perhaps the most right. I got my left and right. For a minute, I thought Trevor Harris was a lefty. I don't know why, but perhaps one of the most important spots on the offensive line all year. Played at a high level, and as
a rookie, as not even the former NFL guy, straight up rookie.
Exactly, and I know the CFL's award system is flawed. Mm-hmm. The way they determine their end-of-year award winners is horrifically broken, right?
Yeah, no question.
But the fact that they give love for the linemen and the special teamers, and that's not something that other leagues do, I love that.
I don't know about the NFL, but I know there's a lot of awards in colleges for, like, everything.
Oh, 100%. I'm more talking NFL, right? Like, I know you've got, like, your offensive and defensive players of the year. You got your offensive and defensive rookies of the year, and then you've got your NFL MVP. And let's face it, if you're not playing quarterback, you're not winning the NFL MVP.
Not likely, no.
Exactly. It's very much, and that's what I love is, like, in the CFL, our outstanding player nominees it doesn't happen every single time, but you see defensive guys in the mix, right? It's not something you see in the NFL, and I enjoy that, because it's the ultimate team game. You need that recognition, and let's face it, Roland Milligan is this team's best player by such a far distance, by football.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in fairness, the difference in the NFL is the awarding in the NFL is valuable.
Yes.
So by default, that pretty much falls to the quarterback, unless maybe you're talking about like a TJ Watt in Pittsburgh situation.
Right.
Is maybe the odd exception, but for the most part, yeah, like you're talking valuable versus outstanding, which I think is important to, know the difference, to understand the difference, and also why I appreciate, again, the MOP awards, because we are simply, giving recognition to players who played well, not just were important parts of a good team.
That is nail on the head right there. And I hope, and it always comes down to it, right? Mm-hmm. That who was the most outstanding player in the league? And to me, it's Roland Milligan or Bo Levi Mitchell, right? You can't call it the most outstanding player and then snub a guy from not from a playoff team.
Yeah.
I know voters are going to think, well, you can't be the best player when you didn't play in the playoffs, but
he should be the East nominee. Like, I don't think there's any question about that. The West is probably 50-50 between Brady Oliveira and Roland Milligan.
100%.
I would say.
But both men are very deserving of the award.
Yes, and this was the argument, of course, we've talked about a lot about changing it. And, John Hodge made these, I'm stealing this from him essentially on the 3 Down Nation podcast this week, was he was talking about if you went into an award situation into the awards show where all the awards were the top 3 guys, period, no matter where they came from.
Oh, I like that.
So essentially, like using the example this year, you would have Brady Oliveira, Roland Milligan Jr., and Bo Levi Mitchell up for the award.
Oh.
So then then you sort of create a situation where you don't really know which way the vote's going to go because, okay, is the offensive vote going to split and Roland Milligan will take it? Or is the West vote going to split and Bo Levi Mitchell's going to take it? Or is, there's different scenarios that can play out where you're not sure. Instead of we're in a situation where, we've seen it in the past in some scenarios, especially in some of the other awards where it's like, okay, like, I mean, like if it's Roland Milligan Jr. or Brady Oliveira versus Bo Levi Mitchell, I think we're pretty confident whoever comes out of the West is going to win the award.
Certainly.
Other examples of these, I think like the Brandon Banks, Cody Fajardo year is a good example of, okay, we know this is going to Brandon Banks.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Right? Like there's scenarios where it's like that and it just takes all of the drama out of the broadcast itself, out of the event, and you're just like, okay, like these awards aren't actually that interesting. But if you add the extra body in, it can add sort of some different things and different scenarios where you're not really sure how it's going to play out, which would make for a more compelling product to actually, people might actually want to watch. Because at this point, I generally don't watch the broadcast or go to the event because I just can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered to really care about this event all that much.
Well, I think it'd be fascinating to, and especially with today's tech, to get your voters together for those top 3 and have them all sit there and hammer it out. One of the coolest things I'm a part of behind the scenes is, again, with the dwindling sports media here in Saskatoon.
Yep.
I get to help the Kinsman Club of Saskatoon select their team and athlete of the year every year. And we go for lunch and we get about 5 to 8 of us around a table. And you just get throwing names, right? And you get BS and you get talking, you talk about what does the award mean? You have a chance to just talk about these things. And we always come up with some, you've always got somebody you maybe overlooked or a number you overlooked or a stat you overlooked or something like that. And it's a really cool environment. And rather than just, to me, your final award should be decided by, a group of men and women around a table just figuring it out.
Sure.
Not by anonymous balloting, because I think in those, you get around a table, you get talking, and somebody brings up a point that you didn't think of before. So that also, to me, would add some spice to it, right? And then you could have, and then all of a sudden you've got an excuse to go on, and Dave Naylor's got an excuse to go on TSN, and I voted for this guy because, like, and us at 3 Down, we've got a chance to write an informed article of how the discussion went and how everything went. So I think that'd be a really cool touch to fix the awards. Do that, do the top 3, away we go. It's all of a sudden quality television and quality reading after the fact.
Yep, absolutely. All that makes sense. And like as we discussed in the past on this, I think the team nominees are still good.
Yes.
I still think every team should have that sort of recognition for their players every year.
Yes.
Especially because I'm sure some of them have some, minor bonuses attached to those awards, so that's important. Yeah. But after this, sort of team release, the whole thing should reset and you're able to vote for whoever you want. So like we're in a scenario last year, for example, where Brady Oliveira and Zach Claros both could have been up for the award at the end of the year.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And it should have been Brady Oliveira.
Yes, he absolutely should have won the thing last year, too.
Yeah.
And this is not about the character of the man who actually won the award. Brady Oliveira was just, frankly, the better player.
Yes, 100% he was. And that's Simon with our long-standing belief on this podcast that Chad Kelly is a garbage human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and far from alone in that thought. So now that we know that the who the award nominees are, they will get one last chance to kind of put a stamp on the minds of voters this weekend. At least most of them, unless you're a member of the BC Lions, as their regular season lease has come to an end.
Yes.
4 games this weekend, and only 2 of them matter.
But that is an exponential upgrade from the last 4 weeks.
And usually, usually this week is like the worst in the league because it often doesn't matter. But such is life when you play a 21-week season and everyone plays 18 games and 2/3 of a league makes the playoffs. So, I mean, that's another discussion for another day.
Yeah, that to me is an off-season discussion, because I feel like you and I could both go on for a while with that from our perspectives from different leagues and the way that things are done. But you're right. We'll kick that one till the off-season.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, we all know the Winnipeg Blue Bombers play the Montreal Alouettes on Saturday afternoon. That one will be on CTV. A few hours later, the Riders will play the Stampeders, and at that point, they will know whether they will be playing for a shot at hosting the West Final or not. And I think it's all fairly obvious sort of what the storylines coming into this are. The Bombers are going to go full tilt, obviously. The question will be how much do the Alouettes put into this game. The Riders obviously will be able to make some changes should the Bombers win. But how much will be seen, because they have to put their roster in 24 hours before. So
yes,
they won't know whether the Bombers had won or not by the time they get to set their roster completely. So, should Winnipeg go on to beat Montreal, which I think they will, you will have a scenario where, okay, Trevor Harris is listed as a starting quarterback, so maybe he has to come out for the first snap and then he's gone.
First snap handoff to AJ Ouellette, and then the second snap is Shea Patterson with Bertrand Houdon behind him.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. So with that in mind, there's one thing, and it got some people. It went over a lot better than I thought it would when I tweeted it this week.
Yeah.
We see it in the NFL all the time in their final week of the regular season, where they bunch games in their early window on Sunday and their late window on Sunday that have consequences with each other.
Yes.
So, like, if there's spots in the AFC on the line, they plop that in the 1:00 window. They move some NFC games to the 4:00 window, because those games all matter for each other in terms of standings. And if there's one really big win and you're in division sort of thing, they tend to move that to Sunday Night Football.
Yes.
Obviously, this CFL doesn't have that big of a grand scenario, but we do have somewhat of a scenario where two teams are playing on the same day, and they could have done something fun and cool with it, and understandably didn't, because it's never been done, and they probably didn't think of it, and it's not necessarily in the CFL's DNA to ever do this in general. But why not move that Rider game up? Because one, ticket sales are looking horrendous. So
terrible.
If you start that at, say, 3:30 local instead of 5, maybe you get a few more people showing up because it's not as cold at the end of the game.
Yes.
And two, it may also help attendance and things in general, because for sure that game is going to matter no matter the outcome, because you're playing at the same time as the Bombers. So you have to go out there and you have to win that football game no matter what, because the Bombers are playing at the same time. You don't know what's going on. Well, you know what's going on, probably. Like, there'll be scoreboard updates and all that. You'll have an idea, but you can't start the game knowing whether it matters or not, because, we have to go out and win this football game because they're playing at essentially the same time. So I don't know if they had to move it necessarily to the same 3 p.m. local kickoff. Sorry, 1 p.m. I don't know if they had to move it quite at the same time, but they could have moved it around in a way where I think these games could have overlapped, maybe within a hour difference of each other. And you could have had a really fun time saying, okay, these two teams are playing, and both of these games matter right now. One's on CTV, one's on TSN. And I have to give Bryce, a lucky bastard, credit for this idea. You could have done like a back and forth, keep an update on both thing on TSN Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Where you go back and forth and you're watching both games at the same time. Wouldn't that have been great?
We had, this was cool. And I'll salute the National Lacrosse League for this.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is fun and this is memorable. This is what the fans want. As we headed into the last regular season game of the year, it was a situation where, God, I forget who was. The Rush needed about 3 things to go their way, and 2 of those things went their way. And they needed to beat Toronto and then have another outcome go their way.
Oh, it was like the Steelers at the end of the year a couple of years ago, where like they had to win or tie, and these 2 other games had to break one way, and like it came down to like the final second of Sunday Night Football to whether they win or not.
Right, and the guys at TSN, what they did, which was awesome, we didn't have a halftime show. They instead, we teed up. We said, okay, this is the other game right now because it started half an hour before us.
Yep.
This is the situation. Now we're going to go to the other game. And then what TSN did was they played the other game until we came out of half. And it was chaotic. It was fun. It was what fans wanted. And I know the broadcast crew working that other game said the same thing. Like, hey, welcome the Saskatchewan Rush fans. Like, here we are. This is the scenario. And like, it was cool. It was chaotic. I love the last day of the NFL regular season because of that chaos. And it's a shame that because of the league being so stuck in their ways that this is what we get.
Especially coming off a week where it's clear everything's bad. And when in the CFL, when games don't matter, people don't watch.
No.
Like, and we know the ratings will be fine come playoff time. They will do what they always do, and the numbers will be good. But yeah, once the games don't matter, people tune out, and I don't blame them. I frankly don't blame them. No, so if you have an opportunity to make sure on your final day of the regular season, both games matter, why not make that happen?
Well, and especially right now, the competition in September is fierce. Yeah. Right. To me, it shows that the give a shit about this league, that the fact that the playoff games pull so well.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got the World Series starts tomorrow night. You've got the NHL, you've got the NFL, you've got NCAA football, right? Like, if I'm going to watch a random game I don't care about, I'm sorry, CFL, it's going to be some action. It's going to be some CUSA where at least I can see something bizarre and chaotic in a game that means nothing to me in the grand scheme of things, right? So you're right. They would have had an absolute great opportunity to go back and forth. I love Bryce's idea. That's a great idea. And it's not hard to do. You've got TSN Plus, which, by the way, I will say for the $8 a month it costs me as a regular TSN subscriber, that is great bang for your buck for TSN Plus. Red Zone, lots of extra college football games. It's not, well, maybe I shouldn't say the part that they don't seem to notice when, I'm logged in simultaneously in both Saskatoon and Regina. But
no idea how that happens, but yeah.
Clearly I can travel at the speed of light. But
yeah. Well, and I imagine the NFL Game Pass will eventually end up there once the DAZN deal is up.
100%. So to me, it's just you have a chance to do something fun, and it's not like this game became like I could understand if the games this past weekend all of a sudden made this game relevant.
Mm-hmm. No, we've known for like 2 weeks now.
Right. So you would have had a chance to move your broadcast crews around, set up, set everything up, get everything ready to go. Like I'm with you. I did you have to move it to 1:00 as well? No, but at 1:30,
1:32, maybe you could get away with, unless the Bombers are suddenly up like 48-0 in the first quarter or something. Like
right, which isn't going to happen, right? But to me, then at least you give everybody that is in the stadium and everybody that's watching, you give them entertaining football. Mm-hmm. Because you're right. If the Bombers, so let's say you start the games at 1:30, and the Bombers are up big at halftime. The Riders, do you take the chance and maybe pull a couple guys, or do you keep your momentum going? Do you try to beat Calgary with your starters? So
I mean, they could maybe beat Calgary without their starters. So
they could maybe beat Calgary with me at quarterback.
I don't know if I go that far, but
I can hand a football off to a guy's chest and throw the occasional little screen pass. All right,
maybe.
No, right. I am a washed flag football quarterback. There's no way they'd win a game with me at quarterback.
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
But again, it's just you have a chance to do something fun, and now. And if I'm the Riders, if I'm Craig Reynolds, I'm calling up the league and basically saying, "Hey, you're screwing us." And the reason I'm doing that is right now.
That's Wade Miller's job.
No, Wade Miller would make a press conference on the top of IG Field and rent every billboard in Winnipeg to say it. Craig Reynolds has the class of the clout to go behind the scenes and be like, hey, you're kind of doing us dirty here, right? And what I mean by that is you're Rider fans and looking at the attendance heading to this game. You don't know if you should spend your $100 and your 2 hours traveling if this game's going to mean diddly squat. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's the position you're in right now as a Rider fan, is there's a real good chance that by the time you jump...
And there's still another game to be played at home this year.
Exactly. Right? So instead, what should be like a crazy atmosphere cheering on the team to a potential first place, you've got a whole bunch of people going... Do I spend the dough on this one or do I wait for the next one? Right? And I think if you move those game times up and you could bill this as a shot at first, a live shot at first.
Like, no matter what, it is a shot at first. Whether it works out that way or not, who knows? But at least when that game starts, there will still hypothetically be a shot at first place in the West
100%.
if they moved it up to 1:30 or 2 o'clock or something like that.
Instead, if you're a season ticket holder in Moose Jaw, Davidson, a lot of these places that are an hour away, you're going to know by the time that you're probably on the road to Regina whether or not this game means anything. And let's face it, football games at the professional level that mean absolutely nothing, with teams playing for nothing, and Calgary's clearly playing for nothing, the fact that they won't even dress PJ Walker.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. There's things going on there, but that's fine. But, I mean, why they're still starting Jake Mayer, I really don't understand.
Right.
Like, why not just throw Tommy Stevens out there, have some fun, see what happens, run the triple? I don't know. Like,
but that's it. And they're not going to do that because no. Greg Dickinson is a coach running scared, right? So it's a shame because it's affecting the attendance. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of Rider fans, and I will never be one. You and I are not ones to judge. We are not of the get your ass in the stands crowd.
No. Like, I fully respect people who decide not to spend their money. That's fine.
Exactly. And to me, if this game was, at 2 o'clock, I consider spending money on it. I'm off this weekend, right? It'd be a great opportunity for me to come down and hang out and watch the game. But knowing that this game could mean absolutely nothing, and I'm watching Shea Patterson for the entire afternoon while Trevor Harris and the rest of the offense rest.
I do kind of want to see Jack Cohn, though, just to see if he has anything.
Oh, 100%.
In fairness.
Well, 100%. No, I'm with you. I would love to see Jack Cohn in this game. But, and again, I understand, you're buying a ticket right now for something that you don't, and even the fact that they're playing on Saturday, you couldn't. And I get it, the logistics of flexing a game to a different date are almost impossible in the CFL. In fact, I would dare say they are.
Well, yeah, the only reason I'm even suggesting is because they happen to be playing on the same day. If the Bomber game 100%. Was Friday and the Riders was Saturday, no, you don't switch that around, no question.
No, 100%. But even the ticket sales staff, I think of those guys, you're not going to be able to sell tickets for this thing until probably, your walk-up's going to be determined at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And that sucks because they got some cool stuff going on. And again, you're always up against the fact that, I just kind of on a whim upgraded my basement TV for less than what it would cost for Rider season tickets this week, right? So it just, and that's not to knock the Riders. I know in Regina, they are perhaps the best bang for your buck for sports entertainment right now. What do you do? Okay, I know this is something we talk about off the air a lot of times. And I'm not just saying this because I am a Saskatoon Entertainment Group employee, but what the hell are you doing, Regina Pats?
Yeah.
Right? I'm just going to leave it at that. That is, yeah. I don't want to make any comments as an employee of the Saskatoon Entertainment Group, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyways, I hope this is my dream scenario because unlike you, I think Winnipeg's going to shit the bed in Montreal.
I don't, but I also have my concerns about Montreal right now. I think they've been caught by the having to coast for too long.
But they've rested guys in those games that coasted for too long. I came back to last week that I feel like this is the New York Giants in the last week of the regular season against the undefeated New England Patriots. I feel like Montreal is going to give Winnipeg everything they can handle and then some in a traditionally tough building to play in against a veteran Winnipeg team that, that's a beat-up team right now in Winnipeg. They're all old. Let's call a spade, right? So I'm hoping that Saturday's game is relevant, whether the Riders win or lose. I just hope Saturday's game is relevant. A bunch of people go. Weather looks like it should be nice. And I hope we could all embrace the dumb and the chaos of a last game of the regular season game for first place. Because the way this season has gone, that's the only way I can see it ending.
This year, win up to 1,000 times your cash every game day only on Underdog. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite players' stats like touchdowns, goals, points, and so much more. Millions of fans from all over the U.S. have won over $1 billion on Underdog. Underdog is offered in 33 states across the U.S. And this season, Underdog will be running a special, promo, or bonus almost every single day. Don't miss out. Download the app and sign up for Underdog today using promo code ENDZONE. And you'll get a free pick as part of your first cash entry plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Again, that's promo code ENDZONE. Cash in on every touchdown this season with Underdog. Must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. 19 years or older in Alabama and Nebraska. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.